Thank you for coming in early in the morning for these pre-conference sessions. We're really excited. We have never done workshops before the session of the main keynote for World Communications Day, so this is the first for us. Very excited. We had a lot of feedback over the last year, and as we started doing some initiatives within the diocese, a lot of folks had questions about their websites and social media and marketing and flyers and posters and all the things that you're involved with. So we thought, let's do a little hands-on workshop. We'll have a couple different topic areas that each one of us is going to speak to, and then time for Q&A at the end. There's also on our website, thesalesmedia.org/PN, standing for Parish Network. You'll see a link to a blog where we'll be posting these session slides, so you don't have to take crazy notes. Everything will be up there, and then from time to time we'll do some blog posts on interesting trends in social media, web publishing, anything we're working on. And you'll have the ability to comment on those blog posts, so feel free to continue the conversation beyond today. We really hope you do. So I'm going to keep the introductions really quickly. All of our information is in your program book. I'm Christine Mohan from the Sales Media. My colleague John Mark de Palma, who's also from the Sales, and then Charlie Hanger, who is our consultant and also was a former colleague of mine at the New York Times on the web. So we're going to start talking about, very briefly, an introduction of who Sales is, what we're doing, and how that relates to parishes, parish websites, parish social. And then really take a look back at where we've come from that might be related to some challenges you're having as brand stewards for your different properties and communities. So the Sales Media is the technology and communications arm for the Diocese of Brooklyn. We are responsible for running the tablet newspaper and website, Net TV. We also do Nuestra Voz, the Spanish language newspaper, and we also have the Telemedia Network. So if you've worked in schools and parishes, those are the folks who come in and help wire the schools, help get the iPads going. So that's a really nice education initiative we have through Sales. So one of the projects we started on actually almost 2 years ago, Monsignor Karen Harrington, who is chair of the Sales, really wanted to help parishes out, especially those that don't have websites at all. So we were not quite ready, and that's the first slide. Getting your house in order. We weren't quite ready to start helping parishes with sites because the Sales didn't actually have its own website. We had a couple of them. They all needed a lot of work. So we spent the first year actually working on our own house, getting it in order, getting our social media cleaned up. I think we have a couple slides about that. So we launched the Nuestra Voz website. That's on the right. We actually put a Sales website up, which is kind of embarrassing as a technology company not to have one, but it happens. Very simple site. I want to talk a little bit about simplicity. It's very, very difficult. I know that all of you have challenges for resources, but really the best thing you can do is start looking over across everything that you do. So whether that's web, social, start with voicemail. Actually, John Mark has an interesting story about doing some audits of different parishes and the lack of voicemail.
Hey everybody. Yeah, I have a very interesting story. I call parishes all the time. And sometimes I get pastors and secretaries, and sometimes I get the voicemail. And one of the primary things I need are mass times. And you'd be surprised at how many voicemail recordings have the incorrect mass times. They might have their holy day schedule up for Easter, still. They might have their Christmas schedule up. They might even have the wrong pastor's name, because the pastor's been transferred or retired. So that's one of the primary things that you need to look at as a parish. And how many people do we have here representing parishes? Okay, great. So when you go back, take a look at your voicemail and listen to it. And if it's not your voice, and it's the old pastor's voice, you might want to record your own voice on it too. Because I think what happens is you leave it up to the secretaries, and sometimes it just falls to the wayside, thinking that the recording is accurate.
So definitely, part of getting your house in order is looking at your front door. Increasingly, your front door is mobile. Increasingly, your front door is search. So Google yourself. Type in the name of your parish, your school, into Google, see what comes up. Is it old information or pages that haven't been updated in a while? Take a look at your stationery. Is your phone number correct? All of these things are basics. So sometimes people go right to Facebook. What should I be doing on Facebook? Should I have an Instagram? But don't forget, you have the basics, and you want to make sure that everything is consistent and clean and has the same logo. You want to make sure that your front door is inviting, is modern looking. So as you start doing posters for the back of the parish, are you still using clip art that looks like what I used to see in my CCD books from the 1970s? That is not inviting to a younger audience. That makes you look dated. You can be doing the most exciting things in your parish and your community, but if the things that you're putting out there, your image, your brand looks kind of dated, it's going to be hard to motivate people to keep coming back. We can talk a little bit about, on the web they talk a lot about conversion, very term we're all familiar with. It's all about getting people in the seats, in the door, keeping them. You want return visits, whether it's return visits to your website, return visits to your social media. It's all the same type of goals. You know, building new leads, building good relationships. So no matter what you're doing, whether that's mailers, flyers, web, email newsletters, it's all the same goal. So it's really all about conversion. And actually, why don't we talk a little bit about the first big project we did probably 2 years ago. That's where Charlie started coming in and helping us out, was redesign the Diocese website. It was a big project, and I think looking back, if we had known how big it was going to be, it would have been a little more daunting. But again, I think it's important to say the site we had up was a little bit dated looking. It was really hard to update, and so we took a real look at all the content. I'll let Charlie talk a little bit about how we figured out to prioritize what went on our website, what went on our homepage, and how often we updated it. Because it's a tough thing when you're you're short on staff and resources and time, how often you can get onto that website and update it. And if you can't, then how do you make it look fresh or commit to at least updating once a week?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us it was, especially with the diocese, it was all about trying to, again, really simplify it. There was so much on there, and it was almost like a lot of it was like a theology lesson. There were long things that everybody in all their different fiefdoms within the diocese had put up all this stuff, and we wanted to just say, you know, what's the essential information that we need to relay to people, and what's the simplest way we can do it, and then as far as just finding, what do we try to do, maybe once or twice a week, or get something new on the homepage. But we realized the primary purpose for the diocesan site is to have a place. It doesn't need to be that dynamic. It needs to be a place where everything you need to find is easy to find, and that's kind of different maybe from what the parishes are doing, because they should be a little more lively.
And we do, if you go to the homepage of the diocese, it's actually a really good resource in terms of what's going on across Brooklyn and Queens. In the middle, you'll see if you go to diocesebrooklyn.org. We keep, and again, these are tools and techniques you can bring to your own site. We keep quite a bit evergreen. We don't ever change the welcome. It's always the same picture, the same message. This is always the bishop's editorial that's in the tablet every week, so we change that once a week. And then this is anything that's going on in the community. So whether it's futures in education, school evangelization, the parish event. So that way there's something fresh. And then we wanted to incorporate our partners. So down here is a scrolling list of Catholic Vibration, Catholic Appeal, Futures. So it's a nice way to bring your partners and folks in the community into your website, and also get some traffic and send traffic back. We changed the photo seasonally. We've got Easter up there, ordinations coming up. So again, we don't have the time to be updating it every day, but it's nice to kind of have some areas that are fixed. But it's really important to set up a schedule. If you can commit, and again, commitment and consistency, two big things. If you find someone within your parish, within your staff, parish secretary, a volunteer within the community that can say, okay, once a week I'm going to go in and look at the website and look at our Facebook and post something, retweet something if you're on Twitter. How many folks actually have a Facebook page? And who updates it for you? Do you update it? Staffers? You update it. Who else? And how often?
Daily.
Daily. Wow. Are you also sharing other folks' content, or are you pushing your own content out? Is it a conversation? Is it a little bit of everything?
A bit of everything.
Great, great. And
What are we gonna do the next week? What we did the last week, pictures, comments, the
fantastic.
pastor column, anything that I can put there every day.
and then do you see folks sharing it within the parish?
Some, I still have to push that a lot, but I know that there is a lot of likes, some comments, and the sharing is the one that I have to push more.
Sharing comments. So it's interesting. Photos are a really easy thing that you can also maybe have an email set up where parishioners can send you photos. There's nothing that's going to get shared more quickly on Facebook than photos, and you can potentially get their okay to tag themselves, then they can share it to their own networks, to their own families, to their own friends. It's a really simple. Go ahead.
And then we just had communion, and some of the families had posted pictures on their own Facebook page. I asked them first for permission to share it on the parish page.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what to do.
Because I didn't want anyone to get connected to something they didn't want to be connected to.
Right, and that's important. I think that's a really good rule of thumb, is to be safe and to always take that extra step to ask. You know, folks, parents especially, are very concerned about pictures of their kids on Facebook. A lot of folks might post pictures of the kids but not have their own account. So you do want to ask permission before you start sharing. But again, it's the same thing in your posters and any other collateral. It's always good to ask and get that permission. And I know a lot of the schools actually have permission forms that the parents sign that says we can use the children's photos in different collateral. So any other things? Yes? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I run the Facebook page for my parish as well, Sacred Heart St. Stephen. And what we do is, I actually put it to a vote to the community. We have about 900 plus followers, and we decided to close our group. So it's not accessible to the public. You'll see the group, you'll see the name of the parish, you'll see our mission statement, but you won't see the content. So that might be something that you might want to do, is just close the group so that you have to physically join the group in order to view what the content is.
And some parishes or youth ministry groups are closed, different groups. And it's also a real nice private space where they can have community and be talking to each other and not, it's a nice kind of intimate feel to it. It's actually like a community club. Anyone else using different things? Any Instagram out there, Twitter? I'm curious. No Twitter? So what do you do on Twitter?
Well, I actually have, it's for the media adult company that the Dominicans do. So it's basically just giving updates on the latest film projects and what's new with the Dominicans in the city.
And so you're pushing out your own content, you're also retweeting and others. Great. It's one of the things that, and maybe it's part of the culture of kind of being pulpit and kind of pushing out our content, but it's really important to really push a dialogue. That all this social media, it's very tough, and coming from newspaper companies where we're used to here's the news and here's how we see it. It took a long time for the New York Times and the Wall Street Journals of the world to really have community going, to open up comments, to have folks disagree, agree, to review their own films. And user-generated content, as it's called, is the best way to also get feedback. What's working in your parish? What events are people looking for? Do they want a different committee? Do they think this isn't working? Is this fundraiser not working? It's a great way to get that dialogue going. And also, we're trying to work people, it's your basic, lead generation. You're trying to work people up the funnel from occasional visitors to folks who are coming, every month, really every week, back to church and getting involved in the community. And the more you can do to get that dialogue going, you'll find out, they're going to tell you what they want. Let them. Okay, so Instagram, no Instagram. So a couple of these things, I do think it's important if you're not comfortable with this stuff to at least get out of your comfort zone and figure out what people are doing. If a lot of your community is younger, different demographics, use different things, and it might make sense. We do have a couple parish sites that are using, a couple of the schools are using Instagram, a couple are using Twitter. We do have quite a few using Twitter, but Facebook is often the most popular. But as you go into them, especially Twitter, it's really a good idea. It's really a nice newsfeed that you can put on your site, you can use as ways to get other people seeing what's going on in your community, and also just in the church, local news, Brooklyn and Queens. Let's see, so I want to talk a little bit about mobile. Again, when you start to look at your front door, more and more, everyone in Angola knows that folks are on the phone all the time. But folks aren't just, checking Facebook. They are getting news. They are getting community news. They're sharing it. And so the phone, you want to see how your stuff looks on the phone. How does your website look on the phone? How does it look on a laptop? How does it look on an iPad? Because if folks are really trying to get quick news and they can't get your site, they're just going to go away and look for something else. So it's really important to put yourself in the mind of your audience and figure out how are they getting your content and how are they getting to your front door and make sure that it's inviting. Should we talk about some things we're doing with the Parish Network? We could bring up on the sites. So in March, we started helping parishes that didn't have any websites. It's about 46 parishes in Brooklyn and Queens that didn't have a website at all. So we've been going through, John Mark's been calling all of them, inviting them. So DeSales is offering as a service the ability to get a website up. We'll help you get your content up. I'll let John Mark and Charlie speak a little bit to the process, because it's something that if you've got your website, great. If you're interested in redesigning, let us know. But also, if you are looking for better ways to keep your site updated, and hopefully some of the things we've been doing might be applicable to yours and some of the tools we're using, most of which are free.
Okay, so what we did was, this is about a year and a half in planning, and we established what we call a parish network. And what we're doing is we're linking parishes to the diocese, and we're linking them to each other. And if you go to our webpage, desalesmedia.org/PN, which is what I have up currently, you'll see our mission statement for the parish network is on the left. And then you'll see a list of parishes on the right, ones that have gone live and ones that are coming soon. And essentially what we're doing is we're connecting technology with real parish needs, and we're evangelizing and conducting outreach for the parishes. So we're giving you the tools, and we're helping you in the process. And we started with the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. And I'll pull that up here.
I just wanted to take one step back on this. Is this one?
Yeah.
And, I think what we did is we looked around, and there are how many parishes in Brooklyn and Queens?
187.
Okay, so 187, right? And there's, a million. A lot of them have websites. They're all done differently. Some are good, some are not so good. So what we saw was this huge area where we needed consistency and quality and technical know-how to get this done, because I know it can seem really intimidating, like where do we even start if we want to build one of these things. And so what we did, and it's crazy that 187 parishes would all be trying to start from scratch. So we thought, what if we come up with a template, reach out to all these folks, and then we can make them a custom site, but they'll look consistent, they'll have the same information, and we'll be able to get a bunch of them online in a hurry, in a level of quality that they wouldn't have had trying to do it on their own.
Just to be very narrow, we do think that, in Brooklyn and Queens, such a diverse community, very diverse, but also younger, mobile. Some folks are moving to, our new residents. So what are they looking for? They're looking for your website, and they are looking for the basics. Sometimes they're traveling to Brooklyn or Queens. Sometimes they're here for a holiday. And anecdotally, as we were doing things in the diocese, events, funerals, it was nearly impossible sometimes to find very simple phone number, directions, mass times. So that's another thing about getting your house in order. When you Google yourself, if you're showing up on masstimes.org and some of these other websites that we're not affiliated with, give them a call and say, these are really outdated, this pastor's not here anymore, because those sites do show up on search, and so you want to make sure that folks are getting accurate information, because there's no bigger turnoff than showing up on the steps of the church and having the mass time be wrong, and they might not come back.
One of the biggest challenges is data as well. And as a parish, you have a lot of information that you want to get across to your audience. And you need to identify who your audience is. Are they parishioners? Are they visitors? Are they people shopping for your parish, seeing which parish they'd like to join? And what we did was we spent a considerable amount of time trying to streamline the data flow, trying to figure out what are the key points of data. That's what Christine and Charlie were talking about a little bit earlier. So what we identified were the main things that people wanted: mass times, about us has directions, phone numbers, contact us information, sacraments, religious education, bulletins, people want to know the information that's happening in the parish, and directions. How many times have you ever looked at your own sites and tried to see where your directions are on the site? Sometimes it's a maddening process because it is invisible, and sometimes it doesn't exist. So those things are really key when you're looking at your website and designing your website. And sometimes it's a challenge because it forces the parish to actually reflect on itself and figure out, well, what are the sacraments that we're offering and how are we doing it? And then they have to give us information on it, and we help them write it. But it is really a reflective process.
And it's one of the steps Charlie was mentioning before we started redesigning the diocese website. Monsignor Harrington and a couple of folks we talked to said, let's look at this from a consumer point of view. Someone who doesn't know a lot about the diocese or doesn't, they're looking for a parish, so we added sections on find your parish, find it in Brooklyn, find it in Queens. And also, let's not use language that people who aren't kind of the inside baseball. So, words like faith formation and terms like that. Let's use, I need to get married, very simple FAQs, RCIA, First Communion, like terms that folks will understand, because some folks are still very, still go to Mass, still very active Catholics, and some folks maybe, we looked at some websites where we were designing, and some folks have a button. I'm Catholic, want to get more involved, or coming back in, and so how do you target those folks that are the, quote, casual users, occasional users, and get them in more often?
I think one of the things you have to do is identify the groups. What types of groups do you have in your parish? and convert them into people that are going to follow you, either on Facebook, Twitter, or via your page, and create content that appeals to them. If you see here, this is the Co-Cathedral's page, St. Joseph. They have a Twitter feed, and we embedded the Twitter feed into the page. So when you go to the page here, you don't necessarily have to log into your Twitter account. You can see what's going on right here. We put up some little communication day events for them. And that's another way of getting people involved because they can tweet, they can follow you right there. We also embedded the Facebook page at the top so that people, it's readily available to them. They don't have to go and search on Facebook for the Cathedral Facebook page. Boom, it's right there. And we repeat it on every page.
So one of the things you might be thinking is, okay, this is all great, but how do I get this done? How do I share content? How can I, maybe the wireless or the network in your parish isn't that strong. It takes you a while to upload photos, send photos. So one of the things we started doing with the parish network is setting up Dropbox, which is an online way to share files, big files too. So if you have a volunteer who, maybe can't get into the parish office to help you, you could do it, they could do it from home. Volunteers can do it, folks who are, at night, in the morning, kids are at school. That way, we try to do stuff as much put in the cloud as we could, because that way we can get up the content, the parish secretary can drop in the content, the photos are in there, and then it becomes actually a nice repository later. So as you're looking for photos for a poster for an event you're doing, they're in the Dropbox, and it's free and it's available to you. And so these are things that you might want to tap into in your own parish. How do you make it easy to share content for anyone that's helping you with the website? Email's great, but folks might be focused on their work email. How do you get them the content other ways? Google Docs is great. Maybe you could talk a little bit about setting up Google Calendar. We've done that for some parishes because we realized they didn't have a shared calendar to even between the pastor's schedule, parish secretary, volunteers. So that's a very simple thing. It's free. Once it gets up and running, it's a nice way that you can see and share and all the events are there.
So can I actually drive for a second? So if you look, it might be good time to just kind of jump into a little tour of what we put on all the sites. So if I make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so the home pages, we included the address, as you can see. We got the mass times up top. So we did the Sunday mass times, and then if you click through here, you get the weekly mass schedule. And then we were talking about the calendar. So everyone, we set up Google calendars for everybody. That this is maintained by somebody at the parish level, but we've got it so that it feeds in onto the homepage here. So this will always be in this space.
So it's the far right.
Yeah, the far right here.
These screens are
Try another one so here. So, and then that clicks through to a larger monthly schedule.
And as you update it internally, it actually flows right to the website. And these are things we're happy later on to help you with. If you've got your website going, give you some tips to get it done. But it's nice it actually syncs so it's automatically updated. And so if you've got masses coming up, some of the pastors put even weddings in there. It's a nice way to promote weddings in the community too.
Right. Sure.
I think one of the important things, and one of the things we're trying to stress, is that you have to keep it updated. It has to be accurate. Because once it's not accurate and once it's not updated, people aren't going to go to it and use it as a resource because they don't trust it. So that's something that you need on the parish level to be disciplined in, is updating your calendar. I can't stress that enough.
Well, I mean, it's beyond the calendar, though. To me, I think this is about, and we've talked about this, there's got to be somebody at the parish level who really embraces this. And it doesn't necessarily need to be an employee. It could be a parishioner who is savvy and motivated because, the calendar, the site, all the things that are going on, if you have nobody who's paying attention to it, the danger here is that you build it once and then nobody ever does anything with it. So somebody at the parish level has got to embrace it to keep the thing that you start with up to date.
And also, don't forget about the teenagers, the young adults in the community. So a lot of folks might have young kids volunteering, opening the door at the rectory. Why not? I mean, with some supervision. WordPress and some of these ways we publish these sites are very easy to use, and it's a skill these kids can keep doing. Learning to code, they say scripting or coding is the new literacy. This is something that once these kids learn, they can then go on other jobs, learn how to update websites. And so it's a really nice community service you can offer, but also that way you're in there, you're seeing the content, and maybe they help out with your Facebook page, or they're out taking photos. They are out at events, people can send you the photos, you set up an email address, or where people can send it in, because that kind of grassroots is what people really like to share the most.
Okay, so if we're going to do maybe a quick tour and then kind of open it up to questions after that. So every site that had enough photos, we made a little slideshow on the homepage here, so you can click through the different images. We gave a spot for a little welcome message, and when you click through there, there's more information on the parish, who works, the staff, and sort of the message of the place. We're feeding in headlines from our news outlets here, and these are customized so that if it's a Brooklyn parish, you're going to get Brooklyn-centric headlines. Queens Parish is Queens headlines. Spanish speakers, you get Nuestra also. We are going to have online giving right now. This is just going to tell you to send a check, which is not very high tech, but going forward, there is going to be a way to do that online. We created a form so that all the parishes have a way for people to give you their information, so now you can build a database of all your parishioners, all their contact info, even which sacraments they're interested in getting, and which ones they've already received. We've got this spot here where we've mainly been using it to promote this, but you can use it to promote internal things as well. Visitation. We'll get back to that. So another one of our parishes we've done is visitation.
Does that have to do with language?
Yes.
Okay, so they've got their own ad here for something that they're working on, which I'm not sure what it is. Also, Christine touched on the idea of how we did this. So we built this in WordPress, which is an open source software. It's a content management system, essentially. So if you work at a news outlet, you don't sit down with a blank screen and start typing out HTML, right? You've got an interface where you put a headline in this box, you put the text in this box, you push this button and add a photo. And WordPress started as blogging software, but now it's become one of the major content management systems. So we built, all these are built in WordPress with the same template. They call them themes in WordPress, and so you can customize that with obviously the content, but also the color scheme and all that. So when you click through our various ones, here's the visitation. It's a little smaller, so let's get it bigger too.
Can you talk a little bit about customizing by language?
So I mean, essentially at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, we have several that are bilingual parishes where we've got in Spanish and English. We have one that was a Polish-speaking parish, but we didn't do it in Polish, and we made down the road. Is that
Right. It's Holy Cross. It's primarily a Polish parish. They were going to do a bilingual message, but they chose English. But there's bilingual content on the page. For example, a history section. But it's up to the individual parish to provide us with that information. They have to translate it for us, and then we'll post it for them. And then we have one that's going to be coming out in Korean and another in Chinese. So it really depends on what the parish audience is.
And again, it's back to that welcoming front door. Any given day, there's masses in Spanish all across our diocese, all the different languages. But it's very difficult to keep your whole website in 2 languages. It's hard enough to keep it updated in English. So what and certainly as we're building 40 sites and helping other folks redesign their sites, we're doing the option of English. So you've always got the photo, the slider on the left, English on the top, and then a secondary language on the bottom, or it can be Spanish and Korean, whatever your 2 primary languages are. Those link to a page that are a welcome message about us. And all that content comes from the parish, and we're giving folks the tools and the training to update as much as they want, but we did recommend starting simple, starting small. We're never going to scale even 1 site or 40 sites unless we keep the tools very simple. And one parish was interested in doing the whole thing in Polish, and we said, okay, great, give us the content. And it took a little while to get that content, so we said, let's go with English first. And that way also, the same thing with the diocese. We eventually want to have a diocese site in Spanish, but very time consuming, and also the terminology. You need someone who really knows the language and the proper terminology, whether it's Catholicism, community, parishes, all of that.
Yeah, I'm going to just zip through this tour and then I'll get out of the way. But so we did the Mass Times, which has the schedule and the calendar underneath it, about us. These have varied. Some people have a history of the parish. Some people just have the welcome and staff and the directions, but others have had more extensive. Sacraments kind of runs down if you need to plan a baptism or a wedding or whatever, here's how it works at this parish. religious education, self-explanatory. Bulletins, we gave a place for them to archive the PDF bulletins, so it was this one.
It's a very popular area. I'm sorry,
So,
I forgot to,
yeah.
your question, you had a question earlier?
Well, yeah, I walked in a little bit late, I'm sorry, so I don't know how long you've been around. But I wanted to ask you, can we look up also an event that happened about 2 months ago about a conference for men, for priests and deacons? It was held in the Bronx, New York. Can we go into the site and search that?
So which, was this one of the parish sites that we've been working on, or was it your parish that had the event, or not?
No, this was Brooklyn Queens Diocese, and they had an event 2 months ago for priests and deacons, and it was the first time.
Mhm.
It's done all over the world, so they did it with Timothy Carn, with Timothy Dolan. Can we look that up on this site, or maybe that's too new?
Right.
So, right.
So, I mean, what these are individual parish sites. So they're gonna have things related to their own parish. That's kind of what we're talking about. If we had done a story about that on the diocesan side, on the tablet, then you would go find it there. But this is sort of a different animal.
And I'm not sure, and actually Brendan's in the back, he updates our diocese website and our sales site. If there was news about the event or a press release, we would have that on the Diocese of Brooklyn website. So if you go to dioceseofbrooklyn.org, we try to keep everything there, news about it, but also the tablet newspaper is usually covering most of those events. And also keep the Facebook too. So the tablet has a Facebook page, our Net TV website station has a Facebook and Twitter, and those are really good ways to see different types of coverage. So if there was video, the video will be online.
Right, and parishes, we don't have as much content from the parishes, so we really don't have a search box yet. If parishes were to have a lot of content, then the search box would be preferable. Right now, content is streamlined.
Right, it would be easy for us to add like a blog. Let me get through the other thing we have. Almost every one of them has a school page for whatever school is associated with that parish. Many of them link off to a separate page for the school. This is another area where, again, we've got a lot of schools, a lot of different platforms, a lot of different designs, a wide variety of quality between the sites, and so that's another area where we're thinking about looking in the future. One last thing I want to point out: all these sites are responsive. Christine was talking about mobile, so responsive means it fits any screen, so you don't have a separate mobile website to code adjust. So you'll see as I move the browser in here, it's going to reformulate itself.
So that's what you would see on your
So,
tablet.
imagine on your iPhone it would look like this. You scroll down, everything is still there, everything still looks good. If you get a little bigger, you get to your iPad screen, it still looks good. You get to your desktop, it still looks good. So that's one thing we built into all of these sites. They're all responsive, they all look good on any device you look at it on.
So if you do have a website developer, you're working with a partner, ask them. If you're not sure yourself, ask them if your site is responsive, if it looks the same way on mobile as it does on a laptop, on a small mobile screen as opposed to a large mobile screen. People sometimes ask, do I need an app for my, should we build some apps for our parish, should we build some apps for our community? Me personally, I don't recommend it because over the last couple of years, the technology for this, what's called responsive design, has really come a long way. And again, it gets back to time and resources. For me, it's tough enough to keep my own website updated, never mind updating my website, updating my app, and also with the different operating systems, every other day, Apple, iOS, Android have different types of phones, and you actually have to develop your app for each of those and make sure it works on all of them. So it ends up being quite a bit of testing. So I really think if you've got limited resources, time, money, just make sure your website is developed cleanly, and then talk to your designer developer to make sure it actually looks the same across all of them. If it doesn't, then you might need to do a little work. But again, 50% of the folks, 60, more and more are looking at your website on their phone. So you want to make sure it looks good, and you want to make sure they can find the most important information easily.
Yeah, currently, is this just the 46 parishes that didn't have the website?
Yes, we're starting with those.
And how do the old folks connect to this?
So how many folks that have websites?
We want to use our domain name.
Absolutely, yes. So we have had folks come and ask us, because we're working with the 46 first, want to help them get up to speed. We're going to keep the URLs. So we set up a style with this, all the parishes, parish names -Brooklyn or parish names -Queens. That helps with search, it helps with people trying to find you. And then for each of them, Brooklyn Bridge on the right-hand corner for Brooklyn, and we've got the globe for Queens. And then that bar actually clicks back to the Catholic Diocese website. So again, it's a way for people to quickly get back and forth. So what we would do is keep, should you decide if you wanted to read them with us or read them with someone else, we will keep your own URL, and we'll point that URL to the new one, so you'd have both. So as people get more and more used to typing in that way, hi to Brooklyn, they'll be able to find you either way. We do not want folks to have to go and sign up new domains. We don't want all your stationery to be out of date. We want to make it as simple as possible and not create a whole new hurdle to jump through. Yes?
Yes, this two real quick questions. One, are you guys working with the diocese or any of the organizations to begin a strategic look of how this has to evolve 2, 5, 7, 10 years from now as the whole parish structure changes? That's one. And the second one is anybody really looking at the ability to really empower at the physical level, the parish level? You know, that young person walks in with a smartphone and boom, just like Abercrombie and Fitch or any of the other retailers are doing, you know, hey, look, and give us your information, okay? Because that's what the young people are really used to, you know, hit that tap and go, you know, and then is anybody building an app to ask them to donate at that time?
Right. So,
Let's take one at a time. What was the first one?
First one is anybody working on a strategic plan in the diocese or USCCB level that moves this all upward into the organization?
all right, so I can speak to the sales, and I can speak to what we've been kind of, our vision and goals for the next few years is to help everyone get to the next level. So that's getting the 46 online, it's working with parishes and academies who have sites to tweak them, getting them on social. As far as, it's a great question, and I'm happy to go back to the powers that be and ask them and then post it on our blog page. I know that most businesses have that 2-year, 5-year strategic plan and the funding for it, but I can just tell you for the next 2 years, this is our focus, because as we are doing the parish sites, we're also starting to work on the academies, and you know, every year or so there's 10 more academy sites, so that's actually a big project. But in terms of mobile and walking in, it is one of the things I do encourage, that folks still use some check-in services, so why not come in and remind them, hey, check in to Mass. So you can use Foursquare, you can use Facebook. Those are ways to get folks using mobile. I mean, maybe instead of saying shut off your phone for Mass and humbly, you say, hey, check in and send us a question or something. But in terms of having the technology and an app, we are going to have e-commerce available on these sites. We're working with TD Bank. So if our TD Bank will help us, so it'll be a relationship between the parish and TD Bank, and will help get the site up. And that way people actually will be able to give on their phones from the site or from their laptop, and also down the road at fundraisers that you use, you know, if you ever use the swipe, the square, when you go into a small business. So we really do want to make it like frictionless, so you can raise money, you know, get your donations weekly, and also set up recurring payments. So, you know, rather than the envelopes, yes, we should be moving. You want to let people pay however they want to, right? We want to make it easy. And if you're used to paying your bills online, then let's, you know, cut that check to the parish online too.
And I think what you were talking about, the person coming in, the young person coming in with the phone, this is all part of that. I mean, in the outreach that John Mark does with the parishes, and what I was saying about how we're looking for people at the parishes to really embrace this and take it on, that young person could be the person that you say, you know, we need to get you, the people at the parish level, to look for people like that, so that when they see them, they can say, hey, kid, how about you take over our Facebook page? How about you help us update the website? You're gung-ho, you're involved in this. You know, you got to find those people at your parish who can help you do this, and people like that are who you should be looking for.
Well, and I totally agree with you. The challenge is for one thing to recognize the gap that exists between people my age and my kids. I mean, I got 5 kids, and they can't, you know, they're what, 37 to 26, and they can't even find their checkbook. Oh, I have a checkbook? So it's a lot tougher for the older people to realize that. I mean, 5 years from now, anybody sending out envelopes is going to be crazy. I mean, you know.
And how often are people moving, right? So you're sending your envelopes to play the apartment that were 3 years ago. So no,
huge cost.
And that's actually, you know, the baby steps here, because again, we were starting really simple. This is a big, big project, and we would love to have money, resources. I'd love to have 10 people to work on this, so we can get everyone online by the end of the year. But Initially, things that we're doing are, if you go down to the parish registration, so it might seem like a little thing, parish registration, it's in 2 languages, English and Spanish. You can check off the things you're interested in, and then this file, when they hit send, goes to whoever you designate, their email address, parish secretary, pastor, and that comes in as an Excel spreadsheet, and you can put it into your database or start creating a database, because I know from hearing Monsignor and some folks, I guess there's a census project every year, and you gotta update all your things, so we're hoping to cut down that work, but also, this becomes a real way for you to stay in touch. Folks give their email address, their phone number, they can update it a lot. We had 5 people went to this. The first day we launched St. Joe's, went in and registered. Okay, this is a way you're getting this information. And then again, free tools. There is an email service called MailChimp. I can't recommend it enough. Very simple. You can set up a very, very simple email that goes out to folks when they register. Thanks for joining. We'd love to see you at Mass. We noticed you're interested in X, Y, and Z. Our next meeting's here. And then once a month you send it. Email is still a really great tool to reach people. You can read on your phone really quickly. MailChimp is designed to read really easily on your phone. It's free. Again, it's just having someone figure it out and then commit to doing it once a month or every couple of months.
I just want to ask, what parish are you from, or affiliated with an association?
Well, my wife and I just recently moved here. We go to St. Mary's in Long Island City.
Okay. Your question, I think it was a really good question. When we assess the needs of the parishes, when we're talking to them, your question is up here, and the needs of the parishes are really kind of down here right now. So we have to bring everybody up to a certain level before we can get to that level. But I think what the parishes need to do is come up with a media plan. I might start with the parish council, or just start with the pastoral leadership. What do you want to do? Do you want to approach it on the web? Do you want to approach it socially? And then tap on the shoulders of people that you mentioned, like your kids. If they're really web savvy, or they're on Twitter and they're on Facebook and they're reliable, see if they want to help you. See if they want to maintain those pages. But then also, I think the council or the pastor has to have an editorial plan where they monitor those posts and make sure it's in keeping with the parish mission and the diocese mission. But that's a really good resource to use. It is youth and even adults. There's plenty of adults that are a lot older that are on social media that are very reliable and do it for a living. You might have them in your parish. Tap on their shoulders, say, hey, we need some help with our social media. Do you think you can update it? Have 2 people doing your social media. Appoint administrators for your Facebook account.
I understand your point, but with the world that I've lived in for the last 45 years, I would tell you that at this point in time, it would be much smarter for the diocese to make the decision to do the infrastructure at the diocese level, and then let all the parishes just populate one infrastructure. And that way you'd be much more sustainable, and at the end of the day, you'd have a much lower cost and a much higher quality of product. That's why I asked the question about the strategic direction. The problem is nonprofits don't necessarily think from the top down, and they're scared to death to make those kind of commitments and funding. But I think that's some of the challenge that has to happen in the next 5-10 years if the church is going to really be able to be competitive in this game of social media. That's just my bias.
And absolutely, that infrastructure piece is key, and so that's why we actually chose kind of one platform, one look. Certainly the parishes within can choose their colors and their photos, but this way, we're not gonna force anyone to do, people can be very committed to their sites, they might need some tweaking and they want to see what they got, but we're definitely offering this, and it is an infrastructure that will scale and that will stay very simple and that will train folks, but it is one look. It's a consistent look, so we can get everyone up to that look. And will all parishes be on this in 2 years or so? Possibly, but again, we still need, parishes still are very locally run and they have their own personalities, so some folks may want to keep doing what they're doing. And then over time, they may say, hey, this really works. This is what we're seeing already, that people are seeing those sites up there and say, this looks really good, you're getting feedback, that the site is simple, easy to read, easy to update. So I do agree with you that, and again, we're starting to work with schools and academies, and I'm more familiar with that. I'm on the board of St. Mel's. I want to do a shout out to St. Mel's over there. There's a structure within the academies where you have a board and the marketing committee, and you have a go-to. The parishes can be a little more spread out. So to be able to go in and again, find that one or two people that will commit on a year or 2 year basis, because one of the things we've faced is, as we're going to the parishes that want to They maybe have, a lot of them had dead URLs because someone moved, someone's brother, sister, mother started setting up the site. So this is one way to get back to your infrastructure point. Again, really good point. So DeSales is helping manage the domain. We'll make sure it gets renewed every 2 years. We'll make sure the site stays up. We'll make sure we keep your passwords, and you'll keep your own passwords and your access to it. But that way, if you lose, people move, people pass away, whatever it is, there is a consistent hub for this stuff. So in a year or two, it isn't just a site that no one goes to and no one updates. So again, that consistency and keeping a consistent presence is our goal.
So we've only got about 5 more minutes, so yeah, let's take a few more questions.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, you keep mentioning St. Joseph's. Is that St. Joseph's Astoria?
No.
Co-cathedral.
Okay, thank you.
In Prospect Heights.
I'm in the process of researching to dress up our website. Is there a way to connect to this rather than waste my time doing all of that and then want to connect to this? Can I? It's Immaculate Heart of Mary, Brooklyn.
Yes, so what you could do is start to adopt some of these things, and we're happy to kind of show you Google Calendar and Dropbox.
I already know all that.
You all got that.
But to just get that template.
Do you want to talk to me afterwards?
I would.
Yeah, that's an interesting, especially if you're already handy and getting these up. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Get started.
WordPress theme, for example, you
Yes.
mentioned getting a hold of that,
Mhm.
so it could be tweaked for the particular parish.
Yes.
Right, we haven't been making the theme available for download. We've been sort of setting them up, but.
But again, we can help you get that, the bare bones get going.
Yeah, just come talk to me and we'll
Sure.
Yeah, hi. We took a different way of doing this. We actually paid a service that hosts our website. Because we found that trying to get volunteers and, they're good for a few months, or, work gets in the way, or life gets in the way, we weren't being able to update the page quick enough. So by getting a service that comes in, and basically we have 3 or 4 people in the parish that just push emails and posters up to that service. So that the website itself is covered.
And it's definitely a solution a lot for the reason. Or they, a deanery we met with 2 weeks ago, they have one person who handles their social media. So that person does manage the Facebook page for a couple of things. And definitely, if it works for you and you have the resources, just be careful of the cost that there are sometimes vendors out there. I mean, we've heard people charge $3,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year. And unfortunately, when you ask, well, what are you getting for that? And also, how long does it take you to get your changes updated? So again, just great if you can get it done, especially with speed, but just keep an eye on the costs and
Yeah, I agree, but the speed works for us because we don't look at stuff turned around in a day or something. So
That's great.
It's up to each individual parish. Everybody's needs are going to be different. Some parishes have more money than others, and they can afford a $6,500 website.
it depends who you're talking about.
Yes, Becca?
We have in the parish like the whole media group that we have volunteers for different things like the website, the Facebook, the video, photography. So we put them all together, and that has been very helpful because one person cannot take care of everything, especially when we are volunteers. However, the challenge that I have found is with the old guard that they are very resistant to the technology. So I'm thinking that probably if we could do some training, just to how to get online or something like that. Do you provide anything like that? Do you have any agreement with the libraries or something that I can actually guide them into the into the modern world?
Lock that front door, right?
Just one example, and that what parish?
Immaculate Conception, Astoria.
Okay. What I've done, because I'm on parish council, is that we set up a group of people, we tapped on the shoulders of people who are in the business or in younger people that know a lot. And then we presented the plan to our pastor, Monsignor Massey, of what direction we want to take the church. And then we trained each other inside that council. So I don't know what the skill level you have there in your parish, but I'm sure you have a lot of people in there that you can share resources with.
Okay.
Does
No, the problem is not the resources, the problem is the resistance from the old guard that I have to get into the new technology.
Do you have parish council?
Because we have the technology, we have everything there, but that is the big resistance that we have, for instance, for not only the elderly, because we understand, hey, 20 years ago, if you are 80, 20 years ago you were 60, maybe you were not that much into technology. So that is respectable. But there is a lot of resistance to the change when you want to introduce new things. There is a lot of resistance from the, the people that have been in the church, like doing everything all the time. And but I know one of the challenges is actually technology. There are people that have never been online, believe it or not, people living in Astoria. So it's like, okay. So that's what I was thinking, that probably for the parishioners, that we can offer some kind of training, especially for the seniors, that they don't feel comfortable having a 20-year-old teaching them something, because it's the way humans are. So if you don't have any type of training, I was thinking that probably talk with the library and make some sort of connection with them, because they train how to use computers and how to go into the internet and use all of these things. But I was wondering if you have anything related with that.
So a couple things. One, we found out that we needed to do a lot of training, even just to start to get the website. How do you attach an email? So we're doing that with the pastor, the parish secretary. I like your idea in that we can build a great site with e-commerce, but if folks are very wary of using that, then it's going to be for nothing. So yes, I think training, and it's kind of a good close, we're coming to the end of the session, but we, depending on how this workshop went today and feedback, we're actually thinking of probably doing workshops every couple of months, and one of them we're thinking of different themes. So maybe one of them is going into, inviting people from the very parish level and saying, okay, your congregation, you're moving towards this, you're using more video, and how to get more familiar with it. And then maybe folks like you can bring some of your parishioners who are less comfortable. But definitely we'll have one in the fall, and these can be actually more hands-on. It's actually like how to get your Facebook, published, what are the best types of content to use, video. So I really like that idea. So, but again, send us questions. We've got that site up. And we've got John Mark's email, so please send us feedback. And if you'd like to see another session like this, or topics, or questions about what we're doing, or just issues you're having yourselves and you need a little help, just let us know. But does anyone else have any questions? I know there's coffee and breakfast and networking going on in the exhibit hall. I don't want to keep you here and get you fully caffeinated before our keynote at 11. So, any other questions? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.